As night fell over the city, Ethan Carlyle found himself pausing on the quiet street, drawn by the light spilling from an old bookstore. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of aged paper and a solemn silence. His gaze was captured by a book titled The Illusion of Free Will. Its cover, bathed in soft, golden light, seemed to reach out to him, inviting him to pick it up. "Do you think you're free?" A quiet voice spoke up behind him. It was Richard, the shop's owner, watching him with a calm intensity. Ethan looked at him, a little taken aback, but nodded thoughtfully. "Well, yes, I think I make my own choices." Richard studied him curiously, then asked, "Then, do you know where that thought comes from?" Ethan felt a flicker of doubt. Taking the book in his hands, he turned a few pages and found the name Martin Griffiths. With that name, a new story began to unfold. Martin Griffiths was a scientist, forever in search of answers about free will and determinism. One day, he participated in an experiment, only to experience something disturbing. His actions were predicted by a computer before he even made them. In the lab, he saw the word right hand on the screen just before he consciously reached for a pen with his right hand. "How could you know that?" Martin asked, astonished. The lab attendant explained, almost indifferently, "Your brainwave patterns are being analyzed, so we can predict your decisions seconds before you're even aware of them." The experience shocked Martin to his core. The choices he thought were his own, were they nothing more than chemical reactions in his brain? Were his actions all predetermined? He was haunted by the idea that every decision he made was governed by the rules of determinism. As Ethan read further, he found himself drawn into Martin's struggles, feeling his own doubts intensify as Martin wavered between determinism and free will. Ethan, too, began to question if his own thoughts and actions were truly his own. As time passed, Ethan returned to Richard, eager to learn more about free will. Richard pulled various philosophy books from the shelves, recounting how thinkers like Descartes, Spinoza, and Kant had each wrestled with the concept of free will. "You'll have to find your own answer," Richard told him. But the doubt in Ethan's heart only grew. What was freedom? If every choice was predetermined, why did he feel as though he was choosing for himself? He tried to test his freedom in his daily actions, looking for signs of autonomy. One night, Ethan had a strange experience. He dreamed of his future self, a cold, logical version of him who told him, "Every choice you make is the inevitable result of your environment and experience. Free will is an illusion." Ethan awoke shaken, the feeling of the dream lingering once again. He found himself in Richard's shop. "Is there any such thing as a truly free choice?" he asked. Richard gazed at him thoughtfully. "Freedom may be a matter of how we feel about our actions. That's a question no one can truly answer, which is why philosophy continues." Toward the end of the book, Ethan begins to arrive at his own understanding of determinism and free will. Even if every choice is predetermined, he thought, how I accept it as my own choice. Ethan realized that maybe determinism and free will weren't mutually exclusive. He closed the last page, placing the book back on the shelf. Richard smiled. "You found your answer." "Yes, I've realized that whether I'm free or not depends on how I choose to live," Ethan replied. He left the shop with a newfound sense of clarity, walking through the night with a lightness he hadn't felt before, a feeling of freedom. Years later, Ethan visited Richard's bookstore often, reading countless books on philosophy. Through those years, his understanding of free will and determinism deepened, although he still found himself struggling with doubt. One day, Ethan faced a life-altering choice at work. He was offered a promotion, but taking it would mean sacrificing relationships and the lifestyle he had come to value. Social expectations weighed heavily on his mind, and he felt a deep internal conflict. At that moment, he remembered Richard's words, "Freedom may be a matter of how we feel." He took a step back and considered what truly mattered to him. In the end, he declined the promotion, choosing instead to follow a different path, one less impressive to others but true to himself. This, he knew, was the first time he had fully chosen his life with a sense of freedom. After some time, Ethan returned to Richard's shop, finding it as unchanged as ever, with Richard's gentle smile greeting him. "Richard, you were right in the end, free will is just a matter of perspective." Richard nodded. "The important thing is that you found your answer, and remember, that answer may change with time." In his twilight years, Ethan faced one last choice. Diagnosed with a terminal illness, he had to decide whether to undergo treatment or spend his final days in peace. Presented with this choice, he recalled the conversations he'd had with Richard and Eliot, the lessons about determinism and free will. As he made his choice with calm acceptance, he felt freer than ever before. Here, beyond the questions of determinism and free will, he had found something even greater, a quiet certainty. Ethan lived the rest of his life true to his own will, and, in the quiet corner of Richard's bookstore, his reflections lay waiting, ready for the next seeker of truth. So, what do you believe? Are your choices truly your own? Or are they the result of unseen forces, guiding you along a path you didn't choose? If free will is real, how would you know? And if it's not, does it change the way you live your life? Thank you for joining us on this journey. The answers, perhaps, are yours to discover.